Everybody, welcome to my beginner's guide to Helldivers 2, which is an absolutely amazing game. So what is Helldivers 2 first? Well, Helldivers 2 is a third person, I think we can call it an extraction shooter, but don't let that put you off, whereby what we have to do is, as future soldiers in a galactic war, we have to go to planets and do various missions which normally revolve around killing lots of bugs or killing lots of robots and or completing certain tasks. And while we're doing these tasks, which could be something like blow up some buildings or blow up some high value enemies or launch an intercontinental ballistic missile, while we're doing those tasks, there's also various things that we can pick up along the way. Let's call them currency. So that might be samples, or it could be medals and different sorts of things that are going to help us as we progress through the game. So these missions, you'll tend to go to kind of a planet, and you'll pick a mission, pick somewhere you want to go, and you'll go down, and you can play solo or you can play with squads, and I highly recommend playing with other people, even if you're not on mic, because my experience has been nothing but positive with playing with other people with Helldivers. Even if we're not talking on the mic, generally there'll be a more experienced person there who knows where to go and what to do, and then when you become more experienced, you then become that person. You will have a great time. And as you're doing these missions and wandering around, you'll have your main objective or objectives, and there's lots of little side objectives you can do as well, and I'm going to go into that in a bit more detail when we go down on a planet and I kind of show you. And you do your objectives, and then when you've done them, you can then extract. And in order to take the things out, the currency out that you've found as you've been wandering around the level, or that you've earned for completing the mission, you need to successfully extract, and you'll come back and you'll have these things. And these things then allow your character and your ship to become more powerful. So the gameplay loop, if you like, with Helldivers 2 is to go down on a mission, complete the mission, earn currency on that mission, come out of the mission, upgrade your character, upgrade your ship, and then increase the difficulty. Now when you first start playing, you're probably going to be playing on trivial or easy, and it's very important to understand that as you increase the difficulty in Helldivers 2, you get more interesting objectives to do, you get more enemies, and you get different enemies as well. So the game on easy and medium is very, very different to the game on extreme, suicide and impossible, and even hard. It's very, very different. So if at any point while you're playing Helldivers 2, if you're thinking this is getting a little bit easy, that's when you whack up the difficulty level, because then you'll have much more difficult enemies, you'll have more objectives to do, and also in order to get some of the rarer currency, you've got to do the harder difficulties. So that's kind of what happens. So let's imagine we've done a mission. So how do you make your character better? Well, if you look on the top of the screen, you see I'm using an Xbox controller on PC, so it says X acquisition. So if we hit X, we can look into it. And here we have the war bonds, or the kind of battle passes. There's a paid one and there's a free one. And within these, you can spend medals. Now you earn medals by completing objectives, and you'll find them on the map as you're wandering around. And you can use these to buy things in the battle pass as you progress through. And some things are just cosmetic, but other things actually do stuff. So you may well have, for example, this different armor suit, which reduces recoil and means I can carry more grenades. You might get a different weapon. You might get super credits, which is like the real money that's in Helldivers 2. You may well get a boost that you can use to make your characters stronger or make your teammates stronger. And you can work your way through like that. Different grenades, all that sort of stuff. So that's one way that you make your character stronger. And once you've unlocked that sort of thing, you can go to your armory. If you press the right button, and here you can see we can change our weaponry. So I've got my assault rifle, marksman rifle, submachine gun, shotgun, laser weapon, my secondary, whichever grenade I want to do. We can change the armor. So generally your helmet and your cape don't do anything, they're just cosmetic, but your armor will have different traits. So you get light armor where you can run faster, heavy armor where you run slower but you have better defense, and your medium armor which only has different traits like more stims, more grenades, that kind of thing. And then we've also got our boosters as well, where you can apply these. So I've got Vitality Enhancement, allows all Helldivers to resist injury, and Hellpod Space Optimization. So you apply that, and when you go down, all your squad mates kind of get that. So that's how you make your character more powerful, using the Battle Pass and using medals. Now if we go over here to Ship Management, this is where things really take off. Now this might seem a little bit complicated, but honestly once you've dived in and you've had a go with Helldivers and you've started to go through the process, it all sort of starts to make sense. So if you look up in the top right hand corner of the screen, you will see all these different icons. So let's start off with the yellow R. So I think they're requisition orders, and you earn these by doing missions, completing objectives and extracting. Underneath that we have the blue one, that's super credits. 248 is the number of medals I've got at the moment. 225 is the number of samples. 54 is the number of rare samples, and the pink one, which I haven't got any because I haven't done any of those difficulties, is the super rare samples. So how do we get our character more powerful? Well, we have stratagems. So these are the airdrops that you can call on that will come down. And if we start off with the first ones, the Patriotic Administration Centre, we have things like machine guns, anti-material rifles, there's another machine gun there, an anti-tank rifle, this sort of stuff. And these are unlocked with requisitions and levelling. So as you're playing, you also level up. So certain things will only be unlocked at certain levels, and you can just buy these. The ones I say you may well want to start off with is the Stalwart, which is it's a machine gun that is better than the default machine gun backup, mainly because you can reload it faster, and it's more like just having a really good assault rifle. Also, I highly recommend the autocannon as well, because that is really good against semi-armoured targets, especially robots, but also some of the bigger bugs as well. However, what I will say is all of these things that you can unlock are an awful lot of fun to try, and you will also see when you go to the world to pick on your mission, often there'll be little objectives that you can do that might be, kill 100 enemies with the flamethrower, which will get you more medals to use. So if we come down, then we've got orbital cannons next. Now these again are unlocked with requisitions, so you're upgrading your ability to call in airstrikes, and they've all got different features that you can try. Personally speaking, I prefer the Eagle airstrikes, which are proper airstrikes from aircraft, rather than the orbital strikes, because I don't know, I just prefer them at the moment, and as you can see, these are paid for with requisitions, so I could buy quite a few. The Eagle airstrike is very good because quite a few of the objectives can involve blowing up buildings, and the Eagle airstrike will blow up a building. Also, it's not completely insane as to the area of damage that it doles out, so you don't really, although you can kill yourself and your team because friendly fire is on in Helldivers 2, you don't have to get away that fast, so that's really good to play around with. Then we've got the orbital precision strikes, and here we have the engineering bay. I haven't unlocked many of these, but the guard dog rover is a good one to unlock, and basically when you pull down this one, you then have this little drone that follows around. Especially when you're playing solo, this can be very useful because it means that as you're running away from an enemy, and when you're playing solo you spend a lot of time running away from enemies, that your little drone will carry on firing at them to weaken them, and to make sure hopefully that you'll be able to get away safely, or at least have enough room to then call in something more powerful. Now with all of these stratagems you can take 4 down onto the planet, but for something with like the guard dog rover, because it's a backpack, if you take that particular stratagem, you then can't equip something like the autocannon with the reload backpack. So sometimes it can be a little bit of a compromise. One of the things that is quite good is to have something like the guard dog rover, and then also have something like the single use, if I can find it, expendable anti-tank, because when you call in this stratagem it gives you 2. You can only carry 1, but it means you can also have your drone on your back as well, and it's very useful to use against bigger enemies, especially if you're in a squad where that can be your role. So if we scroll down even further, so Eagle Strafing Run, and then we've got Precision Strikes, we talked about those, and then we've got our Guard Dog Rover, and then we've got our Sentries, very, very useful these. Generally the way that it works in Helldivers 2 is that you'll land hopefully somewhere safe, and then you'll start off on your way to the first objective, and maybe you'll hit some secondary objectives on the way. But as soon as you get into what I'll call a horde situation, where you'll get plenty of enemies running towards you and attacking you, or maybe you're having to crack an enemy stronghold, by putting down a sentry or 2, these will then fire on those enemies and take them out, and can make the difference between just being able to thin out the crowd of enemies. Now obviously when you're in a defensive situation, say when you're in the extraction stage of the mission at the end, putting 1 or 2 of these around the landing pad makes your life much, much easier. Just remember again, friendly fire is on, and try and place them whereby there's something behind them. So if an enemy comes behind you and you're standing behind the gun, what will happen is the gun will spin around and shoot you by mistake. So you can play around with that. Machine gun sentry very good, Gatling sentry good. Now the mortar sentry is incredibly powerful but incredibly dangerous. It's very, very good at taking out big enemies and lots of enemies, but when you're in an enemy close situation, the mortar sentry can kill not only you but your whole squad very, very quickly. So be very careful about that. So that's kind of the stratagems we can call down. Then we have the ship modules. Now these are paid for with the samples that you find. So when you're running around the map, you'll find these samples on the ground, and when you're playing the easy levels you only get the green ones, and as you play the harder levels you get the orange ones, then when you play the even harder ones you then get the pink ones. So as you can see, what these do is these make your stratagems quicker or more powerful. You can call them in more often, or they'll have more features as well. So for example, the first one, the donation access license, means that when you call down a support weapon, it will deploy with the maximum number of carryable magazines. So if you call down the one of the machine guns, it'll have all the magazines with it. Now the next one that I could unlock for 80 samples and 40 rare samples, the streamlined request process decreases the support weapon stratagem cooldown by 10%. So I can call in support weapons 10% quicker each time. And that's what all of these things do. And what this should show you is how important it is to pick up and stay alive with samples when you're wandering around the map. If you die, and you'll get spawned back in, because there's loads of spawns, you've got to be pretty unlucky to run out of spawns during the game, and even then it's only on a timer anyway, so you've got to wait. You'll drop whatever you're carrying in terms of your resources and any extra guns and weapons, and you'll spawn in with just the basic ones. But you can only get a few for each mission, and they're shared between the squad. Don't worry, there's no point shooting your squad mates to take their samples. Yeah, they're all shared between the squad. But they are critical for upgrading your stratagems, and in order to take on the more difficult levels in Helldivers 2, you're going to need these samples. So it's so important when you're down on the planet and you've got a mission that lasts half an hour that you can finish in 10 minutes if you just do the main objectives. Don't do that. Go off the beaten path with your squad if you can. Bring them with you and go looking for points of interest, because you will find more and more resources, more and more samples that are so important that when you come off. Many times I will be playing with players that have low levels, and when we extract they haven't brought any samples with them because they don't understand how important it is. You kind of sometimes get a little bit obsessed with the idea that the most important thing is leveling up your character or earning medals so that you can go to the battle pass and unlock different things, but it's not. It's the samples, the important things, because the powerfulness of, say, your orbital strike is way more important than the fact that you've got, a cool sort of armor to try on. So there we go. So that's the beginning stuff. And remember, this all sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. So what we'll do next is we'll dive down onto a planet, hopefully a quiet one. I might even turn it to the easy level so I can kind of show you what you should be looking for. Now when you want to join a mission, make sure you're going for the difficulty level that's appropriate for you. So, maybe if you've unlocked the medium difficulty level, don't do them straight away, do a few more easy ones, and you can hit quick play straight away, and that will put you into a game with some other players. Or you can go to a particular area, and you could say, okay, let's go down to this one. We can either select something like these missions, where we will be starting off from fresh, or you can join existing missions as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the difficulty level to easy. We're going to go down onto a planet, and I'm going to kind of show you the things you should be looking for on the minimap. Okay, so I've set the difficulty to trivial, and we're just going to select this particular mission here.
This operation would strike a mighty blow against the enemy.
And we're just going to select this one. What have we got to do? The refueling station is offline.
Jump to the touring system.
So we're now going to jump to that particular system.
FTL jump.
Now at this point, if we wanted to, we could go and change our loadout, because we know what sort of mission we're going to go on to. We could do it there, or we can do it once we've got into our hell pod. So if we get into our hell pod, and let's just put down somewhere like that. Now, if you look at the screen, we can see we've got X equipment. So what we can do is if we press the button, now we can choose the stratagems we want to take down. So I'm going to take down an airstrike. I'm going to take down my guard dog rover. I'm going to take down a Gatling sentry and a machine gun sentry. Now if I press X, we can then go over to our gear, and so we get an opportunity to change our gear now. So I could say, actually, let's take down the submachine gun and do that. So we're ready to go, so I'm just going to ready up. And then if there's a few of you playing, there might be a bit of a delay when this happens, and we're going to go down and we're going to hit the planet. Just turn the volume down a little bit. Now, at peak times with Helldivers 2, you will find you get kicked from games and different things happen. Now, as you come down, you can steer your hell pod, so if you see some buildings or what looks like some enemies, keep it away. Right, so here we go. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to call down the stratagems that you want. So I want my guard dog rover, so I'm going to call this down, and maybe if you had an LMG, or you had like the recalless rifle, or something like that, or the railgun, you would call that down, so you're kind of getting ready at this point. Now remember that there we go, so we're kind of good to go. We've got a little friend with us. Now remember, in Helldivers 2, if you reload before a magazine is empty, you will lose the rest of the contents of that magazine. And the things to remember to keep an eye on are your stims and obviously your magazine. And what we can do is we can just swap between our main weapon and our pistol, and then if you kind of press and hold whatever the swap button is for your particular platform you're on, you can then get out your big weapon. So we've got this. Let's have a look at the map. Right, so we can zoom out. So as you can see, we've got our main objective, which is there, and then we've also got our extraction. So what we really want to be doing, we don't want to really just be going there straight away, because if you look at the top of the screen, we've got 40 minutes we can spend on this. Now, if we did that straight away, we could be finished in no time at all. But what you want to be doing is looking around. Now, normally on maps as well, you'll see little icons that will give you points of interest.
North 100 meters.
There we go. See, there's a little question mark there that's appeared. And we just want to be searching around. And what you can do as well is you can also get ready.
Found something.
Fire. So here we go. So we found a little hole in the ground. Let's just oh dear, so that chap's dead. So we've got some ammo, we've got some stims, and most importantly, there is a sample. Remember, you can tag things as well for our teammates. And also, if we press and hold, well, it's the X button on the Xbox controller, you can change things like your fire rate, you can turn your flashlight on and off, and you can change the scope on a scoped weapon. So let's head this way next, and we can see right there, as you can see, there is something there. It's not on the map. Oh, we got some enemies. So again, I'm by myself, so one of the things I might want to do here is just call down my Gatling gun.
Sending down sentry.
Found something.
Let's have a look round.
Say hello to democracy.
What we've got in here.
Get some. Get some.
Some requisition slips, so they're going to be useful. Some ammo. Oh, look, there's another sample. Very important. There's another sample there. There's some more grenades. There we go. So now we look at the map. Why don't we head over
Dropping
here?
a pin. Northeast, 100 meters.
There we go. Obviously, this is a very easy difficulty level, so we're not going to come across any difficult enemies at all. What's that? Ooh,
There's
what's
something
this?
here.
Some more requisition slips. Sometimes you'll find weapons in here, sometimes you'll find medals. Oh, and what's down here?
Supplies.
Stims. Oh, and here we have somewhere else. So, I'm not going to spend all day wandering around this map kind of showing you, but we're giving you the idea that just because there's only one or two objectives on a map, you don't just go to those objectives and do them. You wander around really looking for those resources, really looking for the samples, and then staying alive. Now, if you do get killed, when you come back in, when you're called back in, if you bring up the map, it will show you a little icon where your weapons, and most importantly, where your samples have been dropped, because you drop them where you die. So it's very important, if you can, to go back and pick them up. Right, so there we go. That is my beginner's guide to Helldivers. Probably making it much more complicated than it actually is. Honestly, once you get into it, it's very, very simple. But the critical things are, just remember, the progress through the game, in terms of the more interesting objectives and the more interesting challenging enemies, is all about increasing the difficulty. And you make your character able to tackle the increasing difficulty by upgrading your player himself or herself through going to the battle pass and getting better guns and different armor and things like that. But most importantly, by using things like the medals, by using things like the requisition slips and the samples, especially to buy different stratagems, and most importantly, upgrade those stratagems as you go along. So there we go. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe, and I will of course see you again soon.